No, but that's pretty much what it is. The tool I've been looking for to enhance the music.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hi, my name's Dominic Miller. I'm a guitarist of all different styles. I've been playing rock, classical, jazz, funk, anything, and I've worked with a lot of amazing people. Kind of primarily as a session player, and that turned into working with some amazing artists like Phil Collins, Pretenders, Sting, of course. And now I'm in the fortunate position to have my own band for the last 15 years, which is really a great band, who are like myself, they're musicians and session players who play with big artists. And so I'm a very fulfilled musician, you know, I get to do what I want, with who I want, when I want, you know, so that's who I am. That's right, yes. Well, because I was born in Argentina, my allegiance is always with Argentina, because as a child, I always supported River Plate, local football team. And then when I see the Argentina colors, no matter where I am in the world, I always gravitate towards Argentina. And because I have a French wife and an American father and an Irish mother, so I have a few nationalities that I can support when all else fails. Well, it's a beautiful part of the world. Because of my touring life is so kind of all over the place, I felt I needed somewhere to regroup every time I finish a tour or a leg of a tour. So it's just a very peaceful place. It's surrounded by nature, really clean air, and it's quite quiet. And I like the solitude and the quietness of it all. And it suits me more than living in a city. Although now I do live in Paris as well. So. Because my two children are in school there, so it was a better option for school. So I'm living in Paris as well as the south of France. So whenever I have any time off, I go to the south of France. Yeah. Well, I spent a lot of time with my family, which is what I think. If you speak to many musicians who are like myself, touring musicians, that's the one thing that we all have in common, is we had a chance to regroup with our families and to get to know our children and our wives and friends. So that's what I mainly did, is I put my energy into being a father and a husband and a friend to a lot of neighbors and everything. So I was still very active musically. I mean, I recorded, during the pandemic, I recorded an album with Sting. I've recorded a new one for myself, which will be out sometime next year. And you know, there was a lot of composition involved in that. And so I spent a lot of time on my own writing music, but within the confines of my family, which was a whole new experience for me. Yeah, of course I miss the big tours, but when I'm doing the big tours, I miss the small tours. So for me, it's I don't really care too much about the size of an audience. The most important thing for me as I develop as a musician is to have number one is to have a great connection with the musicians I'm working with, whether it's Sting's musicians or in an arena or a stadium, or whether it's a small club in front of 10 people with my musicians. So if I can get the connection with the musicians, then anything is possible. And I could be in an arena or in a small club, and it's no difference to me. Exactly. That's very true, actually, because if you look at my discography, yes, I have played on a lot of big records with a lot of major artists, but it's the unknown artists that are just as important to me as a session player, because and in some ways I learn more doing those records than I do with the big artists. And the reason is because it's much easier to play with established, brilliant artists like Phil Collins and Sting, because the songs are so good that it's so easy. Everything just falls into place. Whereas playing on albums that are less focused takes a lot more concentration to do something really good that helps make it work. So yeah, I love doing it all. It's the same as audience size and everything. For me, a day at work, when I'm working, every day has the same value. Whether it's a big thing or a small thing, I put 100% concentration into it. Why wouldn't I? You know, so it doesn't matter who I'm working with, I give them the same attention. I think so, yeah, because I put myself into so many different musical situations that every time I do a session with someone, I take something from that session and it becomes part of my DNA. And so I've become richer as a musician. So who am I to say, no, I'm not going to do that session because it's not my style? I want to know about your style, so put me in that situation. And, you know, for instance, like I've been to Nashville a couple of times and played on country records. I mean, I don't really like country music, but every time I work with country musicians, I take something from what they do and then somehow put that into what I do. And there's some things about country music that I really like now. And by the same token, you put me into, let's say, a classical situation. I mean, who am I to do that? But I will learn something there as well. In the classical realm, it's much more to do with tone. So when I'm working with classical musicians, I'm fascinated by how much attention they put into sound production. And that is one of the most important things for me as a musician, as a guitarist, is to create a good sound. And I learned so much from working with classical musicians, because that's really what they care about. It's intonation and sound. So any situation you put me in, I'm going to learn from it and it'll become part of the musical realm. Well, equipment is important to have stuff that works. That, you know, I need to use equipment that makes my job easy. That's all. They're my tools. So I need tools that work. You know, for like with a guitar, for instance, the most important thing for a guitar is intonation, is tuning, more than sound. If I can get a good intonation, I will find the sound. In the cheapest guitar, it doesn't matter what it is, I will find a sound that works. Like you give Jeff Beck any guitar, he will find the sound to make it work within his realm. And it's the same with amplifiers, it's the same with effects, it's the same with everything. It's like, what can I do with it to, not necessarily to make it sound like me. I'm not trying to be like, have my own sound or anything. I just want to play purely and honestly. And so, yes, equipment is important to have stuff that works. And, you know, I could be quite fussy with that. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I mean, the best tools are the ones that allow you to create the sound. I don't want to have an instrument or an amplifier or an effect that has too much personality of its own, which would make it difficult for me to interpret something. So I need to be able to work with it. Well, I mean, I tried it out in the lockdown, but unfortunately, since in the last 18 months, I haven't been able to go out and really kind of do some damage and, you know, explore the way that because when you play live, when you do concerts or sessions, it really takes you really go for it and try things. When you're playing, jamming with other musicians in front of an audience, and that's what I miss. So I've tried it at home, and it's a fantastic tool. Everything in the food chain is there. Everything that I need, you know, the important things like delays, compressions, a few kind of processed like chorus sounds. So everything is there that I need. And then it's just a question of setting it up in a situation where you could program a set list. But the thing is, I haven't been doing any gigs. So I end up just fooling around with it, and then I'm not sure what I'm doing it for because I'm on my own. And the only way to really work with these instruments and these tools is to be with other musicians. Because playing electric guitar on my own doesn't really sound like anything. It's not very exciting. That's more for the acoustic guitar. I can create a narrative or a story solo with a guitar, an acoustic guitar, more than I can with an electric guitar, with a bunch of effects. Of course, it sounds great to me, but it's a great instrument. I think it's a great tool. The switching is very easy to use. That's important too. I think switching is something that a lot of pedals miss. I'm not going to name names, but there's some companies that make beautiful sounds and pedals, but the switching mechanism, especially if you're an emotional guitarist like me, and I sometimes, really go for it, and they need to take a little bit of punishment. And so I think the switching is one of the things I like the most, the switching mechanism. I hope so. I want to go out on the road, and the best way to find how a piece of equipment works is to road test it. Really, to do it at home or in a studio is one thing, but to be on the road is absolutely a whole another experience. And I know technicians, guitar technicians and roadies who really care about that stuff too. They like to work with stuff that can take some punishment. Not that they're going to throw it around or anything, but that's important, And you've got to make equipment that can take some durability, some moving around, going in and out of a case every day. That's the thing. And dealing with weather changes, because we do outdoor shows, we do indoor shows. Humidity plays a big factor in equipment, especially even guitars, the tuning goes all over the place in humidity. But with pedals, especially, like if you have a little bit of drizzle, how much drizzle or a moisture can a pedal board take? This kind of thing. Because going out and doing all kinds of gigs, you've got to be prepared for that. And I can't have something that breaks down on me. Yes, exactly. And in any kind of musical scenario. And that's why I think it's a very versatile tool. The tool I've been looking for to enhance the music. Yeah. A few years, about 5 or 6 years. Yeah. Well, it's kind of it's actually quite a natural process because Rufus has known Sting since he was a kid, since he was just crawling. Because I've been with Sting for 31 years or something, and so he's always been hanging out with us, doing sound checks, and Sting always used to invite him to jam with us. And of course, he knows all the riffs, and he's a guitarist and a writer. So, but when I'm working with him on stage, I don't think of him really so much as my son. I think of him as another musician who I have to work with, because somehow I have a block with that. So, working with him is great. I think and also he's got the same kind of timing and tempo and temperament as I do. So it's almost as if I'm playing with myself in the studio. It's kind of strange sometimes because he's got the same timing I do and the same kind of instincts. So it's great. But the time that I feel that I'm most emotional about it are when we're traveling or on a day off. I suddenly think, wow, I'm hanging out with my son on tour, and I go for a coffee with him, or I go on a plane, thinking this is so cool. That's when I feel like a real kind of emotion about it, but not when I'm on stage. When I'm on stage, I could be playing with anyone. I don't care who I'm playing with. The only thing that's important is, are the people I'm playing with sympathetic to the music? There's nothing more important than that. And that could be, I don't care who it is. So if it's my son or my best friend or a professional, you know, or a celebrity, whoever, it's like, how focused are you on the music? Yeah, he loves it. Yeah, and why not? And he sometimes does that in sound checks, and we look at him and go, "Oh God," you know. But he's really good. He loves all that, and that's the great thing about this band is that people are into different things. You know, there's a Kevin Webster who plays keyboards, who comes more from the reggae realm, and so he's into reggae. Rufus is into heavy metal, or metal. That's one of his hobbies. Sting is into a lot of classical music. You know, we're all into something different. But when we come together, all we have to do is serve the song. And it's very much a question of being in the moment and very present. That's the most important part of this job, is just how present can you be. Okay.
Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart. Oh, I mean, class act.
Bryan Adams.
Oh, a true gentleman and leader. Totally easy to work with, fantastic.
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins was my angel into the business, because that my first experience on the big scene was Phil Collins. So I'm always gonna think of him that way, because he opened the door for me.
Tina Turner.
The boss. Final. There is one other boss who I've worked with, but let's see if he's on your list.
Ronan Keating.
Great singer, great personality, and that song that I worked with him was a huge hit. I think he's great. It's not my cup of tea necessarily, but he's a cool guy.
Steve Winwood.
A legend, total legend.
Peter Gabriel.
Oh, some would say God, but
There can be only one God.
yeah. Peter Gabriel, just very charismatic musician.
Sheryl Crowe.
A true professional. Because she used to be a backing singer for like Michael Jackson. She worked, before she was well known, she was a session singer. So she kept that in everything that she did, and then she became an artist and well known as an artist. But she kept all those chops.
And now, last but not least, Luciano Pavarotti.
A force of nature. Well, to be a drummer. That's a joke, okay? Sorry, I had to say it. You can erase that. No, but to be honest with you, I was hoping that someone would ask me that in an interview, so I got my chance to answer it. It's just a silly joke. Okay. What would I do? I think to be a teacher, a school teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my other thing. If I wasn't a musician, I would do that, because I would have an audience and interact with the kids.